It's the 13th of December and it's time for the 13th film in my 24 Ghost Stories for Christmas. We're just over the halfway mark already. So this time we're going to be talking about a film from 1988 and we are segueing from The Woman in Black to The Lady in White. This is a film that I watched as a child and it was one that always stuck in my mind. I think the main reason for that is that first of all, it centres around a young boy who's a storyteller who writes, which is what I was like as a kid. And second of all, it very much has that small town America feel to it, and that's something which I loved growing up. I still love it now. I love Stephen King stories because largely they take place in small towns around America, and I love To Kill a Mockingbird. I love It's a Wonderful Life. I love a good slice of Americana, that is in that sort of small town American sphere. So The Lady in White is about a young boy who is, like I say, he's a storyteller, and we see him going to school around about Halloween, and he's dressed up as a vampire, and he tells a story. He does like a sort of presentation to his class, tells a story, and they're all absolutely enthralled by it, and he does very, very well. But two of his friends play a trick on him once the school closes, and they lock him in a cloakroom in the school grounds. He then has to spend the night in this cloakroom, and while he's there, he sees an apparition. He sees an apparition of a young girl, and he sees that the young girl is murdered there. Once she disappears, once he sees the murder take place, he doesn't actually get to see who the killer is. The killer comes into the cloakroom for real, not the ghost, but the actual killer, and he tries to murder the young boy, Frankie. Luckily, he doesn't succeed, but the rest of the film is about this young girl, the ghost of this young girl, who murdered her, and about how this young boy tries to get to the bottom of that mystery. This is set to the backdrop of small town America and him being part of this wonderfully colourful family. Jason Preston plays his big brother, who is a child actor from the 1980s that I really admired as a kid, because he was in one of my favourite films from the 1980s, which was Explorers, and he was just wonderful. And I always think it's a shame that his career never took off the same way that the other two actors in the film Explorers did, Ethan Hawke and River Phoenix. Anyway, I'm talking about the Explorers another time. We're talking about The Lady in White. It's a strange film. It's very quirky. There are large sections of the film which take place in dreamlike states. It was kind of reminiscent of Paper House in some ways to me, although it's not at that level. It's a film to admire the quirkiness, admire the mystery, admire the small town vibe that's going on in it, and there are a couple of genuinely creepy moments within the film. It's not. I don't think it's a classic. I mean, there are That's not a word. There are certain things where the film suffers. I think the most glaring one is that this story, Lady in White, is essentially To Kill a Mockingbird, but with a horror or with a supernatural slant to it. You have the sort of Boo Radley type character in there. Frankie is the youngest. He has an older brother, much like in To Kill a Mockingbird, and his father is a widower and trying to bring up his children, but his father is also has this real moral centre, much like Atticus in To Kill a Mockingbird. There's also elements of the civil rights movement throughout the film, and a black man who is wrongly accused. You know, all of the same things which are in To Kill a Mockingbird, and there are even parts in it where I should have said this. The film is narrated just in the same way as To Kill a Mockingbird is someone looking back at their childhood, and yeah, it's so close to it. I'm surprised that more people haven't pointed it out. How much it does resemble To Kill a Mockingbird, and it has to be blatant, absolutely blatant. I'm sure somebody probably watched the scenes in To Kill a Mockingbird where Scout was being attacked by, well, I don't want to ruin To Kill a Mockingbird for you if you haven't seen it, but the elements towards the end of To Kill a Mockingbird, which have that sort of creepy vibe out in the woods and things like that, someone's taken that and said, let's, you know, run with that and make this an out and out supernatural tale. Like I say, it is very quirky. There are out of body experiences in it. There are apparitions left, right, and centre. The film has aged mostly because the green screen effects, etc., aren't exactly brilliant. The film obviously was made, you know, on a budget, but there are actors in there. Like Lucas Haas plays Frankie, the young boy, and he's you have seen him in the beginning of Inception. He's going to be in The Dark Knight Rises, and like I say, Jason Preston, who I'm a big fan of from the 1980s. It's got, God, what's his name? Second name's Rocco. I can't remember his first name. Who played Mo Green in The Godfather. So it's got a good cast, and yeah, it creates this nice feel for this little town. It's not up there with To Kill a Mockingbird by any stretch of the imagination. It's not even up there with some of the other ghost stories that I've mentioned on this list. But it's one that stayed with me. It's one that I watched and it always remained. And I watched it again recently for the first time since I was a kid. And yes, it didn't hold up as well as I had hoped it would. But I still feel it's a film with merit. I think it's a shame that the director I don't think he really went on to do much after it, because it's an ambitious story. It deals with loss, grief. It deals with the abuse of children. It deals with the family unit. You know, it deals with the civil rights movement. You know, it deals with a lot of issues, and it does so admirably in my opinion. But it is a bit creaky in places. So if you do watch it, just bear that in mind. It's not as classy a tale as some of the other films that we've talked about, but it's definitely worth watching, and it has heart and it has sentiment. I actually think that the civil rights story, the wrong man idea, which is in the film, which is similar to Kill a Mockingbird, that didn't sit well with me. It felt as if that had been sort of just put in there, you know, it'd been sort of forced in there, and it didn't really need to be there at all. But it was still effective. I just felt that it felt almost a little bit cynical because it was so close to can't even speak, it's late, to Kill a Mockingbird. It was so close to it. So anyway, that's The Lady in White from 1988. If you can get a copy of it, definitely check it out, and it's definitely worth buying on DVD. And yeah, nice little ghost story, and it's an American ghost story. A lot of the ghost stories that we've been talking about in this list have been British, because that is the that was the sort of fundamental ghost story throughout the sort of 19th, 18th, 19th and early 20th century. It was the British ghost story. We've got to remember that America has the fantastic tradition of the campfire story, and many of them are ghost stories, and I love them. I think there's some fantastic American ghost stories, and hopefully we can maybe fit some more of them into this list. So go and check that out. That's The Lady in White. I know I keep saying that, I'm repeating myself, and I will see you tomorrow for the 14th film in my list. Have a good night.